What's up, y'all? It's a beautiful day out here today, and I am headed once again to Horseshoe Bend National Military Park. I was going to take a quick ride around there, then maybe to whatever else I can get into. So let's take a ride. It's an early spring day here in Alabama, so not terribly hot yet, so I'll take advantage of it for sure.
No matter if you're looking for parts, gear, or accessories, Motorcycle Depot has you covered. I've partnered with Motorcycle Depot in order to provide a discount for Burrows Point viewers. Use promo code Burrows Point for 10% off at checkout. That's promo code Burrows Point for 10% of your entire order off at checkout. Now, back to the video.
So yeah, today I am hitting the big 4-0. I turned 40 years old today, so I don't really, at this stage of my life, know quite what to make of that. At one point in my life, I would have thought that that's super old, and that, well, that's pretty much downhill from there. The other side says, you know, I've seen a lot, I've done a lot, and I feel pretty good. So I don't know. I don't know how to feel about that. But I will say that I've been around enough to kind of figure out a couple of things, and to basically, if I had it to start over with again, I would not make some of the same mistakes that I made. And I feel that I kind of owe it to everybody to talk about some of the mistakes I've made in the past, and try to help folks from repeating some of those mistakes. People are going to do what they do eventually, I suppose, but anything I can do to help, you know, lessen the pain or lessen someone's propensity to do something, I feel like, you know, more information is better. Even if you don't ultimately take my advice, I feel that having the information available is just as important. Let's get on down the road. Basically, this park is a battleground. If you don't know your history, is a battleground where the Creek Indians faced off with Andrew Jackson way back in the day, and kind of led to one of the big Native American removals for the entire state of Alabama. I guess the Mississippi Territory or Georgia or whatever it was back in the day. So here they have a nice drive-through area where that you can drive through and take a look at the history, the historical battleground, as well as a visitor center that you can kind of go into. The great thing about this visitor center, though, is it makes a great stop if you're in this area traveling. They do have restrooms, and highly clean, nice clean restrooms, by the way. Highly recommend you take advantage of that.
Inside the visitor center, you'll find a small theater which has a short film that will help tell the story of the historic battle. After leaving the film, take a walk through the exhibits and the displays that you'll find in the visitor center. There are several artifacts and several very informative displays that will help you understand everything surrounding the battle.
So I'm here up at the high ground. I think this is basically one of the outlooks, the overlooks over here when you come up to the Horseshoe Bend. So this is where General Jackson's forces actually were stationed, and you can kind of see out there they had a pretty good view of what was to come. So you can imagine cannons and things like that up here firing down, or at least someone up here kind of looking at the whole battlefield, kind of get a scope of what's about to happen. So as I walk back to my motorcycle, I'm still learning how to shoot on this thing, so some of the footage may end up wonky, and I apologize in advance, but so far I'm pretty impressed by this Insta360 camera. It's I forgot my point and shoot GoPro that I usually use for when I'm off the bike, so I figured why not use this thing today and see what it's made out of. So far I'm loving it, with the exception of my first person view on the motorcycle. Everything else here has been shot with the Insta360. So yeah, I'm pretty impressed. So yeah, with that, let's oh crap, let's go to the next location, check it out. So here we are, kind of on the banks of the Tallapoosa River. So this is going to be where, once the creeks, the Red Stick Creeks, were routed, they were trying to go across the river here, and a lot of them were basically massacred in the river here by the forces of Jackson that are on the other side of the river. We're kind of in the protected area still, so all the battle and stuff was going on in this area. So crazy if you think about it. The river's flowed here for over 100 years, and to think about that going down here is crazy. Well, let's head out to the next stop. So I guess, as you can imagine, where these white poles are that are down there, that is where the creek defenses were, and it kind of went across the way over there. So behind me there's a cannon that's sitting up on a hill, so you can imagine they were bombarding this defensive work down here from the hillside behind me, and just doing everything they can artillery wise to force them to concede. Obviously it didn't work because the order to charge was later given, but again, if you're thinking about this area as a defensive, I guess a defensive front, using the river as a natural barrier, and then having this erected as well. I guess the only lesson to be learned out of that one is that the Red Stick Creek Indians should have watched their rear. But that who was to, I guess that was their fallacy or whatever. But we have the benefit of history, we have the benefit of hindsight. So that's just crazy to me, to look at this battlefield and imagine thousands of folks, or thousands of men running across this open area into certain death at the hands of a fortified wall. It's just crazy to me. So there's only trees here now, but you can imagine over in this clearing right here that's right behind me, you can imagine upwards of 300 log huts that are out here, and about 350 or so women, children, all the folks that are the families of the Red Stick Warriors. They all out here. It's just, this is the peak, I guess, of the bend over here on the inside of the bend. So this is where all of the huts, all the families, all the women and children would have been to shelter them from the battle that's going to be taking place up the hill that way. So this is where all of them were. Coincidentally, this is also where one of the Cherokee warriors led a group of militia and other native warriors who were aligned with Andrew Jackson. They crossed here at this portion of the river. They were on the other side, and this is actually a pretty wide part of the river over here. So they cross the river and go up here to the village and start attacking the village from behind. Now the Red Stick Creeks are facing a battle on two fronts. Not only are they fighting Andrew Jackson over there coming down behind the earthworks, or defending the earthworks from Andrew Jackson over there, but they are also defending from behind now. Unbeknownst to them, they have forces coming up from their rear. So not a good position to be in. Okay, so I had no idea where this trail led, but apparently it's the overlook onto the flat ground. I guess they call this the high ground. This is the area that overlooks. There's a lot of bees over here. It's early spring. Oh my goodness. Okay, yeah, there's a lot of carpenter bees over here. Oh wow. Anyhow, I'm fixing to experience my America here. So this is the area that overlooks, I guess, where the village where all that was. So yeah, if you can imagine, out in this flat area, just log cabins everywhere, and probably being eaten alive by carpenter bees as well. But the areas that were not covered by the breastworks, I guess once you got past the breastworks, they have felled a bunch of trees. The Red Stick Creeks felled a bunch of trees. So if you can imagine, kind of like how in modern warfare, like I'm thinking about Iraq, the Battle of Fallujah and all that stuff, where you're going from house to house. If you can imagine here, you're literally going from tree trunk to tree trunk, and there's just hand-to-hand combat and stuff going on in here in the woods. As you can imagine, where the Red Stick Creeks were fighting a delaying action, pretty much coming all the way back to protect the village as much as they could. Just crazy. And these woods are dense too. You can see a lot of saplings and stuff like that. So you can just imagine, you can't really run through here. You can, but I mean, it's thick woods. So yeah, man, just craziness. So if you think about American history in the way that I guess we often do, you think about a lot of the famous last stands that were made by Americans, and you think of things like the Alamo, and you think of the Battle of the Bulge, if that had turned a different way and the Germans had the advantage in that. You think of certain other famous last stands, and to me, after reading into the history of this place and understanding the history of this place, this is another American last stand, but not in the sense that I guess a lot of people think of the natives that are in our nation. And I know technically, legally, they have a separate nation, they have their own separate native tribes and separate whatever, right? I get all that, but if you think about it, in the folks who occupy this great country of ours, they're a part of our nation, at least in a way. And this is no different. This was their Alamo moment. This was the Red Stick Creek's last stand. We're on some pretty hallowed ground right now. And the weight of that tends to stick with you, I guess, if you think about it in that regard. That's it for your tour of the Horseshoe Bend National Military Park. I hope you got something out of this. Hope you appreciated it. Check out some of my other videos. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next one.